It's May 19th, 2025, and I'm Joanne Conklin. I'm here in the Granoff Center for the Creative Arts with Leslie Bostrom. Leslie is an artist, and we're here to look at her show called Wild Stories. We chose about 40 works for the show, paintings and prints. In addition to that, there are some notebooks, some artist notebooks, which are just fascinating.
That's one of those.
They're upside down from each other. I just heard what happened.
Maybe you could start by telling us a little bit about coming to Brown, where you studied before you came, just to get us sort of grounded to start.
Sure. The irony of me being at Brown is when I got out of high school, I would never have gone to an Ivy League school because I didn't have the grades for it. So I went to University of Maine in Orono, and after I graduated from there with where I majored in art, I went to San Francisco. I moved to San Francisco with a little stop in Montana on the way to work on a ranch. I sort of started my art career in San Francisco. I lived various places, but I ended up, most of the time I was there for 10 years, living in an artist's warehouse with a bunch of other crazy people and getting quite a lot of work done in quite a few shows and so on. At a certain point, I decided I wanted to go to grad school, and so I applied to RISD, and that's how I got back to the East Coast and back to Providence. When I was at RISD, I became Wendy Edwards' TA up here at Brown. So I was a teaching assistant in the painting class. And then then after that, she went on sabbatical, and I was Roger Mayer's TA. After I got out of RISD hired me to teach printmaking because I knew printmaking and they needed somebody in emergency. So it was like being in the right place at the right time. So I taught etching and litho for RISD for 2 years, 2.5 years. Brown hired me to teach printmaking up at Brown in a 3-year non-renewable position. After that is when I applied and then got my tenure track position at Brown. So that's how I ended up, being here and getting all the way to retirement.
The exhibition was done in conjunction with Leslie's retirement from Brown for 36 years, Leslie? Mm-hmm. Quite a while.
How many years at Brown?
I was 36 years, all I've been.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, this is kind of a tradition that those of us, in the arts get some kind of final something, like a send off that way. So, yeah, this is the lesbian corridor here.
Oh.
So what happens is I get bored with things, and so the early 2000s, I decided to change and do a bunch of gender identity stuff. Actually, it was before that. It was in the 90s, into the early 2000s. This is a woodcut on muslin, and it's Baby Dolls in Love. And during that 10 years in the 90s, I did a whole lot of work that had to do with gender identity and sexual identity. And I had a really good time with it. I really had fun with it. And so this is just a woodcut on 2 pieces of plywood that I then stretched the muslin over and printed by hand after I rolled it up by hand. So you can see where the 2 pieces of plywood come together right here.
Oh,
yeah. So that's like where it was. The other nice thing about these pieces is you don't need any special machinery to make them because I just would cut them out with chisels. Mm-hmm. And so I could do it outdoors. I could do it in the summer at, wherever our summer place was that we were staying. There was something really nice and convenient about that. I love woodcut for that reason. It's the democratic printmaking method because you don't need special equipment. Anybody can do it. the show is like all over the building.
Yeah.
So it's in there, here, up the stairs, and all the corridors upstairs, downstairs as well.
It's a treasure.
It's a treasure hunt. Yeah, so enjoy. Thanks for coming.
And this one's interesting because you sort of misplaced body parts.
Yeah, so I took all the things important to lesbian lovemaking, like fingers and tongues and stuff like that, and eyes, maybe even, eyes are always important, and put them on this piece. So the little body right here, very modestly standing there like, you know,
being nervous.
Sort of being nervous, right? And yet the head has all this stuff going on in the head itself. So maybe inside the head in a sense. What's outside the head is inside the head. It was going along with another idea I had at the time too, that gendering, it's interesting because things have really changed since the 90s in terms of how people are thinking about gender. But that gendering in pictures was very simple, that the default was male, and say a circle with an eye would be seen as male and read as male, and that in order to have a female, you had to add accoutrements like eyelashes or earrings or, lipstick. And so that I was in all of these, and the gendered headpieces upstairs, I was playing around with that.
And you told me you did these right after you came back from Nepal.
I did, because I went to Nepal with Marcia and Phil Lieberman, and I was there for a month, and we saw a lot of Buddhist art. And the gods are multifaceted humans in the sense that they may have many arms or legs or many heads, or be amalgamated together and in among all kinds of other beings and so on, that made me think about art differently and how you could approach the figure differently. So when I came back, I had this idea that I could construct, it was really a constructed body. I could construct it any way I wanted to. I could take body parts, put them together any way I wanted to. And so that's part of how that came out too. Hi, Richard.
Hello. Congratulations.
Thank you. How are you doing?
Good. Nice to see you.
Hello.
I love your hair. So, retirement?
Yeah.
Are you just starting?
I'm going to, as of June 30th.
As of
June 30th.
30th.
I'm retiring June 30th.
It's a great thing.
I know. I can't wait.
I know.
It's going to be good.
Throughout your work, you've been interested in the environment and how humans and animals interact together. But the pieces that we're standing in front of are called the Bird Disaster Series. And that's probably where you become the most explicit in terms of the bad things that happen to the birds. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about the series in general, and what you were doing and what started it, if there was one particular piece that kicked it off.
A lot of my best ideas come to me in the middle of the night. I'll suddenly wake up and go, I ought to do this. So this was one of those ideas, this Bird Disaster Series. And it did come from my interest in birding and birds, and knowing that populations of birds were dropping precipitously, and that there were many ways that birds ran into trouble usually on migration. So habitat loss, getting hit by cars, running into windows, getting tangled in fishing line, getting into being in a war, being like in the middle of a war. All these different ways that birds get hurt and killed, and their populations wiped out. I decided to make these big paintings, but to make them sort of operatic in a sense, sort of tragedy comedy.
I mean, I helped to place them and hang them. I was here for the whole installation, everything.
Right.
And yet, at the same time, I haven't really contemplated the show. I'll have to come back when nobody's here and really contemplate what's in here and what it tells me.
Whenever you have a show, you learn a whole lot about yourself by looking at the show. And I realized how narrative my work is. I had never thought of myself as being so specifically narrative before. And then these pieces are the most specifically narrative of all the narrative works. So this piece is called So Sorry, Thrush. And it's about loss of habitat. So, they put up a parking lot, to paraphrase Joni Mitchell, right, where woods used to be, or paradise, she says. When I was doing the research for this piece, I was lying on the ground and I was taking pictures of the undersides of cars, and I looked up to find myself surrounded by police people because they thought I was some sort of terrorist that was planting things under cars or something. I would develop them by making watercolor studies of what I wanted the paintings to be. So I did make that study first, and also several others, grid them off, and then put the image on by gridding off the canvas. You can see a piece of the grid there.
Hi, Ruth.
Hey, Ruth.
How are you?
Congratulations.
So good to see you. Thanks
Good
for
to see
coming.
you. Congratulations.
No, thanks.
Are you excited to be leaving or
Yep.
in the middle? Yeah.
I mean, I love it at Brown,
Yeah.
but I can't wait to be, to have a lot of time to paint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What made you decide to go so big? These are huge paintings.
I just don't work small. I'm a big person. I like big work, and I just wanted to make big work. And there's something more operatic about large scale paintings.
Yeah.
The show is like all over the building, so that's just part of it. And then there's downstairs, upstairs. Yeah, just keep going around.
Nice. So I'm so glad you came. Thank you.
So this is a wood thrush, and actually where I would get, besides using pictures, lots of pictures from all different sources, I also would go down to the RISD Nature Lab. They have a lot of taxidermy birds that you can draw from. And so I got my wood thrush from there. A wood thrush has a beautiful song, one of the most beautiful songs in the eastern woods.
This is a stunning painting, and I really like the looseness of this kind of watery stuff, and then where you get into the thickness of the bird itself. And the way now in all of these paintings, the birds take center stage.
Mm-hmm. They do, and that was part of the idea of these, was to make the birds the main characters, and sort of make civilization or the people or whatever they were doing in the background, sort of put it from a different point of view. And I also often really compress space in the painting, so everything is the wrong, like the bird is still too big, everything is the wrong size, and that's fine with me. It's like, a part of what I'm doing in all of these paintings. They're all the
We'll see that later with flowers.
Yeah. In this piece too, this is drawing with the tube, so I draw a lot of the paintings with the tube. That one too has a lot of drawing with the tube of paint, so I just squeeze it out and draw right on the canvas with the paint tube. It uses a lot of paint, costs me a lot of money.
But great effect.
Yeah, right.
Congratulations.
Hey, Kevin, thank
Such
you.
amazing work.
Thank you so much.
Some paintings are thinner, some are thicker. It has to do with how fast it comes together. So sometimes they're just wrong, and I have to redo lots of things.
Yeah.
That painting, I totally changed where the bird was at a certain point in the painting. I can't even remember where it was before, but I totally changed that. And so everything is really thick up there and thick through the flowers. I think I had the bird farther down in the flowers, where the flowers are now. And so the whole painting ends up thicker because I've changed all kinds of things around. Same with this one too.
And these are brand new paintings. These are from
Yeah.
2024.
Yeah, well,
Sorry.
that's 22, and that's 23, and that's 24.
Thank you
This
for
is
coming.
amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, love the dining.
Yeah.
So this painting, Wildlife, I made specifically for a show in San Francisco, and the show was titled Wildlife, and I thought I would have a painting that was like in a short story collection. You have a short story that has the same title as the cover of the book. So I thought this would be my short story that was the title painting of the show. There's an Air Force base in Plattsburgh, which is in very northern Lake Champlain area, and they practice their flying over the valleys, going in between mountains and down valleys in the Adirondacks. So if you're there when that happens, it's like this incredible roar, this incredible noise of this plane coming down just over your head through this valley that normally is extremely not only remote but quiet and sort of undisturbed by human sounds, at least some of the time. Nothing is pretty much undisturbed by human sounds anymore on Earth, but every once in a while you feel like really out there and alone. So I decided to put this plane in here. It also goes on another theme of mine, which is that there's always a war going on in the background of our lives. So there's never not a war happening somewhere. And so that is something, you see the pieces upstairs that have soldiers in them and planes in them and so on. That's part of what I was sort of referring to, that it's always happening even if you're not thinking about it. So.
Yeah. Sure. Hi, honey. Oh.
I keep seeing people.
She finally made it over
I
here.
made it over here. Oh
Right.
my God. Well, we're having great turnout.
Yeah, it's good. Good. A lot of people come around.
These three watercolors just illustrate my my awareness that there's always a war going on, and so in all three of them, in the background, I have things that refer to that. Like the one on the end here is called Everyday Life. So, you know, and I was thinking, and I actually got those figures off the brown green. I went out with my notebook and sketched people walking across the green. You know, like this person is holding one of those trays full of coffee, you know, and things like that. Just the normal everyday things that people do. And then, of course, in the painting, I put all these fighter jets. So the idea that we're doing things every day, these very normal, comforting things that we do, and there's always a war going on somewhere in the background. And so all of three of these pieces reference that. The soldiers here with the birds, and then all the fighter jets and the soldiers here, along with the dead bird in the foreground. The text here, which I'm not sure where I got this, it might have been thought up by me, but it may have come from somewhere else. Not do they deserve to die, but do we deserve to kill?
How are you doing? Okay. Thanks for coming.
Good.
Hi,
Yeah.
Sally. So nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
We miss you in journal.
I know it. I miss being there,
There's
but
a big
I
hole
am
there.
finishing
You're
up.
not there.
But you also use just automobiles and commercial jets
do,
in
yeah.
your work. And over in this next painting, there's this piece that you almost don't notice, but way up in the far corner and reflected in the bottom is a commercial jet. And is there some reason for your fascination?
It had to do with how airplanes go over all the time. You often look at them and I wonder where the people are going and where are they going to Europe? You know, if it's headed east, like are they going off to Europe to a holiday? Humans are always using their technology to go somewhere else or to be someone else even now, you know, and yet nature, birds and so on, they're locked into their particular beingness in a way that we are not. And yet at the same time, we're all the same in that we're born and we die. So, you know, we live our lives just like they live their lives. It's just that we have all this other kind of accoutrements to our lives that they don't have.
Hi. It's great. Very fun. Thanks for coming. Great. Leon. Hi. Thanks for coming. All the way from San Francisco. Thank you.
When I put cars in, cars are ubiquitous in at least America or in my life. And so cars are sort of a reminder of human presence and human sort of dirtiness everywhere. So that's why I put a lot of cars in my pieces. It's like They're just a piece of our life, sort of like wars in the background, but cars in the foreground. Like cars are everywhere, and cars, you
All
know.
these things that we do that
Right.
disrupt the environment.
Yeah,
without
disrupt the
us.
environment, but also are enormously convenient, fun, and all those other kinds of things. It's like we get, you know, there's a lot of different values going on there. So.
Now, how come you're hooked up?
Oh, because our conversations are all being recorded.
Because
but
of this guy.
because of the, yeah.
I made all these what I call combo paintings, and the idea was I could start a painting, and then if I ran out of space somehow and I needed more, I could just start adding things on. This came out of a show I did at URI. I was given the gallery at URI. It said I could do, quote, anything I want. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make paintings that go around corners and spread out over the wall and maybe even go on the ceiling and so on. So, or on the floor. And so I started making, this is just one of the paintings I made. There was one really big one that went around a corner quite a lot. There was a number of other pieces that were spread out over the wall like this, had things on top, bottom, so on. And I actually love doing this. In fact, I love working on plywood as well as canvas, and I have done a bunch of other paintings on plywood. These paintings were mainly about topical things in the news. So this one turned out to be about maybe school shootings or whatever, some sort of there's a gun here. So it was, it's a guy running with a gun. That particular thing in the news. Another one of the paintings, the really big one, was about migration, all different kinds of migration. So there were birds in there, but there were people in there too. And so I made a whole lot of these pieces and put up the show down there.
And a little tiny sketchbook, which I love. I love having little sketchbooks. I always have one in my pocket.
We know.
Yeah.
Notebooks are sort of fascinating to me. First of all, because you have so many of them. You constantly have notebooks. You've got one right now. And I got the opportunity to look through a lot of them. And there are a couple of hundred, maybe, I'm guessing.
At least, yes.
You started really early in your career doing that. The notebooks are great because they have so many different things in them. And so why don't you talk about how you use the notebooks or what they do for you or what kinds of things people find in them?
So they're a repository of ideas. I also use them as a journal. So I do write a lot in my notebooks. Like sometimes I'll warm myself up in the studio by making 10 or more collages, just like of anything, you know, tearing up magazines. I like to do something where I lay a magazine down, take an X-Acto knife and cut a rectangle out of the front as deep as I can. And then as you open the pages, there are several rectangles then of all different things. You don't even know what they are. And then use those for a collage.
Scoot around that way and I'll get all of you.
Oh, okay.
I took a.
Sally's gonna take a picture of you. Okay.
What we're looking at here are a group of your notebook pieces, specifically chosen because they're portraits of folks that you encountered in meetings or classes or whatever. So why don't you talk to us a little bit about the notebooks?
Okay, so when I was at Brown, after I got tenure, I was department chair for many years. In fact, a total of 12 years in a few different stints. Mm-hmm. And in order to, when you're a department chair, you really don't have time, much time in the studio. So I thought the only way to save myself and feel like I could keep my sanity was if I started drawing in all the meetings that I had to sit in. So I drew people that I was in meetings with, and that included both in person and when COVID came on Zoom. So I would just draw the people I was working with. And so so these are some of those drawings, and some of them are of students, like Josh and Drag. Josh was a student in our department. And then next to it is Elizabeth Weed, who was the Pembroke seminar, and I usually attend the Pembroke seminar, and I have lots of drawings from that. So that one's from the Pembroke seminar, and this Sam Delaney came to the Pembroke Center as a seminar as a lecturer, and so him. And then this was the Pembroke seminar as well, on Zoom. It was a year where it was 2021. When we were on Zoom the whole year. Like here's a chairs meeting, humanities chairs meeting, where I was there with the head of the FEC, the provost, and Kevin McLaughlin, who was the dean of the faculty at that time. Obviously, I was at these meetings because I was a chair and of the humanities, of a humanities department, and so I was drawing these people as I was there, because otherwise I would fall asleep from total boredom. So.
I think like the entire class, our litho class is downstairs.
Oh, that's good. I'll have to go down and say hello to everyone. I haven't gotten a chance to move.
So these two images of the elk, first as a photograph and then as a drawing, are preliminary for the piece across the hall, which is called Black Flowers. It's from 2013. Mm-hmm. And I think it's near the beginning of the series that you called Monster Flowers. Mm-hmm. And what holds that group of works together?
So I got tired of the bird disasters because of that rigid narrative, that I was talking about, pre-planning, and I just wanted to paint, So I thought, I'll just do big flowers, and that'll allow me to paint, more things and sort of be freer with my paint. And then I also thought about flowers as being this sort of symbol of femininity, and how painting flowers is a girl's thing to do, and how flowers themselves are seen as not very serious things to paint. And yet there's all this great flower painting in art history. And so I thought, I can play around with flowers so much, because I can make them really, big. So hence the monster flower. And I can make them really strange, and I can make them ugly, and I can do all kinds of stuff with flowers. So that's what started me. Like this painting started, and I remember this distinctly, with me wondering if I could actually make a painting of black flowers and make it work. So I actually started this painting with the black flowers. The elk came after.
And did the fire come after?
And the fire came after that. In fact, that was very much like, I'm going to make the background orange. It was just sort of, I have black, and so I'm going to make orange. So sometimes these decisions aren't about the narrative at all. They're like, what narrative happens when you make other decisions, like what kind of colors you're going to put together.
It's okay. I actually I'll hold them. It's okay. Yeah, I'll hold them.
She looks good holding them.
I look good holding them. Yeah.
Years ago, I went to a John Singer Sargent show, and I think it was in the Brooklyn Museum. It was in a museum somewhere. And I took my mother with me, because she was very into watercolor too. And I was blown away by how he didn't obey the supposed rules of watercolor at all. Like if he wanted to put something white in the foreground, he'd use opaque gouache on top of his watercolor. Or he would scrape things out and redo them. And you could see where he had just scraped something off the watercolor with like probably a penknife or something like that, and then repainted it. And so it kind of freed me up a little bit. So with these pieces, I decided I'd use a plumber's torch to draw with. And so I would light up the torch and draw. It makes this brown mark, and draw these kind of shapes with it, and then come back, and this is India ink, go back in with India ink and sort of pull the shapes out of the piece. Another thing with watercolor is I kind of learned that everything worked better if I actually messed up the paper first. And you can see it on this one too, where I took a big brush and this sort of tan color and just brush it over the whole thing, leaving some spaces and so on before I even started putting stuff on there. So
Does it make the watercolor adhere more easily? To have a
no,
layer
it doesn't have
under?
anything
No.
to do with that. It has to do with the image itself and making it less precious somehow. And then it's much easier for me to just draw into it and play around with it. And so that's what I did with all of these big ones. And I was telling Joanne that watercolor is my least, the medium I feel the least confident about, and can sometimes be a struggle. And I have many more that I throw out than I actually feel like are done. So,
But I told her we couldn't tell that from the outside. They look pretty good to us.
so there's something about I really think there's a zen of watercolor that you have to be loose and precise at the same time in some weird way. And you know, it's hard. It's just hard. Oil painting is endlessly forgiving. You can scrape it off. You can paint over it. You can, you know, do all kinds of stuff with it. Watercolor is not like that. There's a certain point where you just wreck it, and then you have to throw it out.
Yes, I am. Yeah, fanatic birder. Yep.
The work is terrific, you know. It's a good thing you did all that mountain hiking and everything, you know, that you could still do this kind of giant physical work.
Right,
you know?
that's true.
It's called So Lost, and it was this person here is a good friend of mine, and at one time she had said to me about a time in her life, I was so lost. And so I took that phrase and I put her in the piece, which is she's surrounded by all kinds of flowers and animals and birds and things that sort of come out in the watercolor, plus a car back there. There's a car in this one. And then I put her in, and I thought of it as being a lost place in a sense, with this big tree in the center. And then this one, the coral snake, came from a time that the same friend and I were in Arizona, and we met up with biologists that were collecting coral snakes, which are the most poisonous snake in the United States. And they had a Tupperware, one of those Tupperware boxes and they were just carrying it around with these snakes in it. They're beautiful. Coral snakes are so beautiful. So I wanted to put a snake into a painting. And then in the background, I put this, like sort of this Arizona. It was a place where you drove along these dirt roads that were carved out of the sides of hills. And also the Western, this is all Western birds like summer tanager and lazuli bunting. And I'm sorry, this is a summer tanager, Western tanager, violet green swallow, painted redstart, etc. So I used all these Western birds in this, on this tree as the kind of witnesses to this snake. And then I ended up making a painting on this same theme, but I brought the Jeep in and rammed it into the tree. So the Jeep is in the foreground along with the snake.
The show goes all over the building, so
That's what I
enjoy.
just,
Yeah.
I opened up the program and I said, oh.
There's a lot more stuff to find. Yeah.
Whoever put it all together, I'm assuming you were a big part of where everything was.
Right, I did have a curator though, as somebody that looked over all my things and then chose the show. Because of course I have hundreds of things, right, over all these years. For example, I have hundreds of sketchbooks and I have hundreds of prints and drawings and stacks of watercolors, and I have, lots and lots of paint, yeah, I have a lot of stuff.
So when I was in San Francisco, I made my living printing prints for other people. So that meant I was printing 250 prints of the same exact thing that had to be perfectly done, right? And so when I got and started making prints on my own, I wanted to go totally experimental. So I made these prints that were involved chine-collé, so that's gluing things on, where I then tore the things back off, where I would take several different plates and repurpose them or reshuffle them for each print. So this series, there were 10 of them called id stuff, meaning the stuff from your id, in your, the limbic brain or something, I made right after I came back from Nepal. And so this was the first work where I was playing around with constructing the body in the way that I had conceived of from looking at all that Buddhist painting. And this piece is made with etching, Shinkalei, lithography, and monotyping. So a lot of this color was put in through monotyping. And the only rule I had, besides using these plates over and over in different ways, was that everything had to be printed. So then I ended up with 10 prints in a series that were all different from each other. As I was saying to everybody, now I can paint every day,
Yes, yeah.
so, and bird and, travel.
Yeah.
I mean, this series, Deviations, this was about relationships, basically, and I made, I think, 10 of these as well, and they were made with etching, litho, and silkscreen as well. And in this one, I started the prints by taking tiny plates, etching plates, and arranging them on the press, kind of like a series of bricks, and then printing those. And the great thing about that was I could rearrange them, and print them in a different way. I could also take ghosts, which means you print it once, and then you just take new paper and print it again, and you get a lighter impression. But the way I was making prints, that didn't matter. The text in this, "They tell the truth whenever they can," was a direct reference to "Don't Ask, Don't Tell," which was Clinton's sort of compromise about being gay in the Army and Navy and the Armed Forces. This was made in '94 during the Clinton administration.
I love it. It looks so beautiful. That's one of my favorite things.
I know, I love that too. I'm going to get a space in Pawtucket.
Great.
And it'll be bigger than my space is now,
Yeah,
so I'm
yeah.
really looking forward to it.
Great.
I referenced before gendered heads, how you could gender a head by what you put on it. And so these were part of a series of 12 that, where I used silkscreen, lithography, and etching. And as you can see, I use some of those same plates over, the same plates that I would build things on the press. So the beefcakes plate is here, and it's also there.
This is phenomenal. Thank you. Your work is just.
Oh, cool. Well, I noticed a lot of birds in the painting.
Yes, there's a lot of birds, a lot of flowers.
I like that owl, that big.
So these are just little watercolors of more of the butch women in love, both are called. They were just playing around. I actually made a lot of work like this. Most of it's not in the show, but I made years and years worth of work with these funny figures and different kinds of queer configurations.
It looks beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You excited?
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. It's been fun.
So these are this Flora series, which I think there are 8 maybe. They were part of the same thing. I made the same screens, the same plates, both etching and litho, and then printing them over and over each other in different ways with some shinkalei that I would then tear off and so on. So that's where, and then, so they use the same shapes. You can see the same things repeating. You can see this, for example, this flower, which I made on an etching plate, repeating here, right? And it's in here, right here, but covered over with yellow. So I would take the same things and repeat them in different ways in each piece.
You guys taking on?
It's really, really great.
Oh, thanks.
It was so much fun.
Oh, I'm glad you liked it.
This is a reduction woodcut, and it's another piece that I made in the summer out of doors. But it was all done on the same plate. So when you do a reduction woodcut, you cut out what's going to be white, and then you print in your lightest color, and then you cut that out. Then you print in the next color, and you cut that out, etc. So goes all the way down till you've basically cut up the whole plate. The plate is gone. And this was just a funny reference to making the Lake Champlain monster, the reputed Lake Champlain monster, who they call Champ. You know, Loch Ness has one, so Lake Champlain has to have one. And so I was just playing around. So I played around with this funny form and put a tutu on it and just enjoyed having this kind of Adirondack lake landscape behind.
This is the earliest piece in the show.
It's the earliest piece. It's from '86, yeah.
And your early things were a lot more abstract.
So just before this, I was doing some abstract pieces I called clouds and sticks. So this would have been a kind of stick. This would have been a kind of cloud, and and so I just sort of, in graduate school, I graduated by doing that stuff, and then I quickly became interested in acid rain, and I went back to narrative things.
You know, I had that one of yours.
Yes, you have one of the
And
old
I could make
dillies.
room for spring too.
Okay,
But-
that is, yeah, you like the one with the big flower?
For a very long time, I was gluing things down, and the same thing in my prints, and then tearing them off. So you'd end up with these kind of windows in the pieces. Spatially, they intrigued me. It was another way of disrupting the surface.
This is from 1988, and it's
Yeah.
called Acid Rain.
Acid
Was
Rain.
this the beginning of your interest in environment, or is it just the first time we see it here in this
It's the
show?
first time you see it because before I went to, in graduate school, my first year, I was doing pictures of all the stuff that was left on the moon by the moon landings. So I had this kind of idea that here we were littering even another body in the universe. We didn't just litter here on Earth. We actually left all this stuff on the moon. It's just still sitting there. So I had made these big, huge still lives of the stuff on the moon. That stuff is all destroyed now. I might have one piece from it. But so that was a sort of environmental concern too. I've always been interested in how people not only mess around on the world and mess around in nature, but kind of intersperse themselves or inject themselves into non-human environments in such weird ways. And so the acid rain was really about acid rain. The Adirondacks was dying. There were many trees and lakes dying because of acid rain from the Midwest, from power plants in the Midwest. Yay.
This was the most amazing event. Thanks so much. It was just so great to be here and see everybody celebrating you. It was just wonderful.
Oh, thank you, Nancy.
Came from all these retired folks who came back.
I know, that was fun.
Everyone's back.
Yeah.
Both these paintings were so easy. Some of my paintings are really hard. Like I work on them a long time and I scrape a whole bunch off and I'm all mixed up about them. But these just like flowed out, both of them. And they were done very close to each other too, both at the same time. This one came from an experience came from Arizona, really. The painted red star up top is an image from the Southwest. That's where those birds live. And it actually came from a picture that my friend Mim, the same person in the So Lost painting, So Lost thing, took of, she just happened to get this flying painted red star like that. So she let me use the picture, and her name is Mim Locke, so I can give her credit for that picture, and I put it into the painting along with, this was started with a collage. It didn't look like this in Arizona. I just collaged all this stuff together and then used it. And then this started from a picture I took in Providence, sort of below Hope Street in one of those neighborhoods where there was just this funny, very barren square house that was set right in the middle of a parking lot, surrounded by asphalt, with all these cars in it. And so I was so struck by that image that I just wanted to do something with that image. And then I put the birds in, flying birds and all that other kind of stuff, and the cars and the flowers and all that.
Okay, bye, Dawson.
Enjoy your retirement.
Oh, I will. I will.
I retired 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It really is fun.
Yeah. Well, you'll see me around. I'm not going anywhere. We're not moving or anything. So.
If you look at my body of work over all these years, that I really just kept returning to that environmental theme. So I would do it and then get tired of it. I went to the gender stuff. Then I got tired of that. I went back to the environmental things with the bird disasters. And then I got tired of those. I went to the monster flowers. And I'm still in the monster flowers. So
You'll never get tired of those.
probably not, because it allows me to play. Allows me to play around. I mean, why would you do it if you can't play around? I think that's the first thing an artist wants to do is, we're just perpetual children. We want to play our entire lives. So we keep playing, but yeah.
Okay.